So one of the things that I find incredibly annoying about our current modern society is what gets the attention. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen this meme floating around. It's gotten a lot of attention due to the fact that Elon Musk recently replied to it, which essentially shows that all of these different combinations of crime, black on white, Hispanic on white, Hispanic versus black, black on Hispanic, and all that are significantly higher than the white on black category, but as you can see in the camera, all they seem to focus on is white on black instances, which are among the rarest of instances. And this is despite the fact that what they end up trying to make national news sometimes doesn't even amount to crimes. I mean, the argument between Amy Cooper and Christian Cooper, despite the fact that Christian Cooper admitted in his original Facebook post that he was threatening to steal this woman's dog, hence her freaking out and calling 911, got national attention for years, and Christian Cooper is actually to head up a National Geographic show on bird watching because this non-crime story got so much attention in our nation due to the fact that the supply of evil white racism is just so minuscule as compared to the demand. However, insane stories that go on in this country never get this level of attention. Insane criminality, insane events, even involving children, are just outright ignored and relegated to the local news. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because there was an incident out of Maryland in a county that's close to DC, our nation's capital, that should be getting some national attention due to how horrifying it was, but it's being completely ignored despite the fact that it was an assassination attempt against a 14-year-old on a school bus. Again, right near our nation's capital. But before we get into that, this video is sponsored, so let me toss it to the sponsor, then we'll come back over here and discuss it on the other side. Celebrities in 2023 are getting on the latest, most trendiest diet, and guess what? It's called Keto 2.0. Keto 2.0 essentially works by utilizing some of the principles of the keto diet without all of the restrictions and whatnot associated with it. And one of the best ways you can start your Keto 2.0 journey is going over to ketowithjustice.com, getting this Wunderbar keto powder for yourself, and you could try it for a 60-day money-back guarantee, 51% off. But wait, there's more. If you order this month, you will get a PDF for free called the 14 Most Ketogenic Foods. And on top of that, we're going to throw in the VIP and fitness coaching for those of you who go and click the link in the description of this video. Can't beat that deal. Elevate your ketones. Try this powder, 51% off, ketowithjustice.com.
It happened late Monday afternoon on a bus carrying students home from the Prince George's County Alternative Middle School. A 14-year-old boy, attacked by 3 others, rushed aboard at a stop. The attack happening here along Iverson Street. The bus pulling up, stopping. One girl gets off, but the 3 others jump on the bus and immediately pull out that gun.
So first of all, I always will appreciate and love and have a soft spot in my heart for the local news, and I appreciate this reporter attempting to act out the motions as if he's miming the story for those of us who can't hear what he's saying. So thank you so much, local news reporter, for doing so. But what he said is far more important. We have a school bus. It drops off a student. 3 masked would-be assassins are waiting in the wings. They jump on the school bus, pull out a gun, and approach a 14-year-old on the bus. That is their intended target.
This was an attempted murder. Plain and simple. Let's call it what it is.
Martin Diggs, head of the Bus Drivers Union, describes a ruthless attack.
Pulled the trigger 3 times, but for some reason, by the grace of God, the gun didn't go off.
So I do appreciate the bus union operator saying that this was an attempted murder. We should call it what it is. Yeah, 100%. This was an attempted murder, an attempted execution of a 14-year-old on a school bus right near our nation's capital, and again, it is not getting the attention that it deserved. Now, fortunately, even though these teenagers that jumped on this bus pointed the gun directly at this 14-year-old's head and pulled the trigger, the gun jammed or something like that. Then they pointed it at his chest, the gun jammed again, and by the grace of God, this 14-year-old is still alive.
and bullets flew out of the gun.
Multiple sources confirming the bus's onboard video system recording the whole thing. A point-blank attempt to shoot the middle schooler in the head.
But despite the fact that there is kind of a miracle element to this story, this should be shocking to the conscience of the American people. And remember, all of these people who don't talk about this, who ignore these stories, who pretend like it's no big deal, are nonstop talking about so-called school violence, gun violence related to schools, and black people being victimized by crimes. Well, here you have a 14-year-old black kid in an alternative school riding the bus home, and people jump on the bus and attempt to murder him. They attempt to execute him, attempt to shoot him point blank. And by the way, we have it caught on video.
And when the gun didn't fire after 3 tries, a physical beating before the attackers ran off.
So then they beat the crap out of this kid, and then they take off. And again, fortunately, it was just an assault, because this was clearly and obviously an attempted murder that, of course, is not worthy of national news or anything like that. We have too many white women getting into reasonable arguments with black people throughout this country to cover, to focus on, to spend a year on, in order to not talk about this local news story that's honestly no big deal. I mean, we're concerned about kids and black lives and all that, but not this kid and not this black life, because we need to search out and look for the evil white racists. I think some white supremacy might be nearby. I have to pay more attention to that, and thus I'm going to ignore all these other instances of more significant violent crime, because God forbid we talk about what's actually a threat to young black men and teenagers in the United States of America. Let's quote the statistic that guns are the leading cause of death for children under the age of 20. That's what the stat actually says, but they like to say children. And most of that is teenagers, and most of that is black teenagers. Let's just quote that statistic, but never actually address those specifics of the statistic, that it is black teenagers most increasingly at threat for gun violence, wildly disproportionately, and it's virtually unchanged for other racial demographics in the United States of America. If we actually address that problem, then we could point out that maybe these soft on crime laws that are going soft specifically on youth offenders, specifically in possession of firearms, are backfiring insanely, and maybe we should course correct. But no, we can't do that. We can't talk about that, because we need to talk about the Neely situation, which again, by all accounts of everybody on the train, was a guy threatening a bunch of different people. You know, it's only when somebody steps up that happens to be a white person, and we have an ambiguous case in order to draw racial narratives from, then we can talk about it then.
We are outraged as a district, horrified that this incident did occur.
Oscar Coleman is Associate Superintendent of Prince George's Schools.
Our priority remains providing a safe and orderly environment for our students, that is during school and also to and from school.
The head of the drivers' union wants more security and says the driver and aide thought they were going to be killed.
And to me, this is 100% legitimate fear. If somebody's going to storm a school bus, a cheese bus, go up to a 14-year-old, try to shoot him point blank in the head in an assassination attempt, you are not safe. Those individuals are definitely willing to turn the firearm on the witnesses. And again, the fact that the national media is going to ignore this, the fact that this is going to get no talks about increasing funding for school bus security or anything like that, is quite telling on where the priorities are of the American left wing and of the mainstream media, which honestly commingles with the American left wing far too often.
They're terrified. The one driver doesn't want to come back to work. They're terrified. They don't even want to come out of the house.
Yeah, perfectly understandable. I would not want to go back to work either. And also, as we're going to find out when we go into the next news segment that covers this story, you can understand it, because what the bus driver's actually afraid of is retaliation, because the driver spoke up about the attempted assassination. Some areas in this country are so lawless that not only can an attempted assassination of a 14-year-old, an attempted execution, just occur on a school bus and it not even break out of the local news media, but also people are so afraid of the gang members, because they essentially run the show, that nothing can be done, and you essentially have to give up your job in order to just function as somebody who witnessed a crime occurring.
A teenager in Maryland is shaken up after a terrifying attack on a school bus. happened late Monday afternoon when a bus carrying students home from an alternative middle school stopped at a stop sign. A girl got off, but 3 others rushed on board. The bus driver said she saw the suspects try to shoot the boy in the head. Investigators say at that point, one of the suspects then pointed a gun at the boy's chest and pulled the trigger, but the gun jammed.
Now, for those of you who are listening on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, links in the description for those versions of the show, you could see these masked individuals and the firearm on a school bus pinning this kid down and pulling the trigger as reported. Now, there's still images from the surveillance video. The video has not been released. I don't even know if I would want to show you a video like that. It sounds absolutely horrific, but I feel like we need stuff like this to come out in the press more. We need to see what's actually going on in our school systems. We need to see how violent the schools and everything related in certain neighborhoods actually is, because we need some perspective on what's wrong in our country. We need some perspective on how bad these criminal justice reforms are impacting the youth, on how bad they're impacting these communities, because it's absolutely horrifying. I mean, again, imagine if 3 white people jumped onto a bus and tried to kill a black person. When they failed, they just beat him. And I know this is a stupid exercise. A friend of mine, Devin, calls it the zebra challenge. You know, if the stripes were the other way, how people would view it. But I think it is important to point out that only when the situation is a black person maybe being victimized by a white person, sometimes it's just an argument, as we talked about, does the national media get involved? Does it become a conversation? Does it start to interest people in discussing criminality and consequences for the criminal? Otherwise, it's just relegated to local news. And even though this is a horrifying scenario, a horrifying prospect, the parent of this kid must be shocked and, again, terrified on what potentially could have happened to her kid. It just goes by the wayside. And make no mistake about it, even if this 14-year-old were killed in this instance, on video, we had it, 3 people jumped on the bus, that would not have made a difference in terms of the national consciousness. You wouldn't have members of Congress like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeting about it. Sean King wouldn't give a crap. Al Sharpton wouldn't be talking about how this is a huge problem or anything like that. The best you could possibly get would be Emma Vigilant saying that it's actually a bourgeois attitude to not want a 14-year-old to be executed on a cheese bus.
The bus union president says the driver is terrified to return to work. She's afraid the suspects will remember the bus number and try to retaliate against her. There are no arrests at this point in the case.
Look, the American population needs to get over their discomfort related to racial issues. They need to get over their guilt related to the racial past of the United States of America and start focusing on the problem. You need to broaden the way you think about certain topics and not just focus on whatever's put in front of you, whatever you're told to look at, and think about what you're not being shown, what's being hidden from you, what doesn't get national attention. You need to not focus on each individual instance that the mainstream media is serving up to you and think about what they're refusing to talk about, what they're refusing to show, what they think is mundane, what they think is bland or uninteresting, and what they think is not going to serve their specific agenda. Again, a lot of people talk about hypocrisy in relation to the left. And sure, that's certainly there and present in some regards, but in reality, what we're looking at is that people on the left are highlighting things that increase their power, and they're covering up things that don't increase their power. It's not really hypocrisy because their goal is to increase their power in society. Talking about the increase in youth gun offenders and them being disproportionately black and connecting that to the soft on youth prosecution movement that has taken hold since the Black Lives Matter riots does not increase their power. But talking in general about deaths of underage people by firearm increases their likelihood of being able to take away law-abiding citizens' firearms, which guess what? Increases their power. That's why they focus on it. That's why they ignore it. That's why they say patently absurd and stupid things in response to cases, and you can't imagine what the motivation is behind it. And A, it's because they are also stupid, but B, some of them aren't stupid, and the fact that those kind of stupid people are given platforms in the first place is indicative of the fact that the left overall is marching forward trying to advance their position. But hey, Those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked the video, you show them by leaving a like. You subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social medias. Support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about a crazy instance out of Maryland that just won't get national attention. Till next time.